Greetings, Greg for Teslafaninsight. Today we cover three areas as typical for our show. The first is we take a look at Nikola has delivered their prototypes for the semi, and so we take a look at the comparison between the Nikola truck, the Daimler semi truck, as well as the Tesla solution in that space. Um, the Unfortunately, I had to take the slight break to switch up on my sound here, but should we just take a break? Give us 1 second so we can switch to our regular sound vehicle because it'll make a difference in our sound. There we go. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. And for our repeat visitors, welcome back. Roger and others, I can see you when you guys say hello. We appreciate your doing so, but all of our viewers have asked us to wait until the end of the show to greet everyone. Beyond covering, hello my friend from Chile, beyond covering the fact that the comparison between the three truck options that are somewhat available to buyers currently, we actually take a look at the $2.7 billion raise that Tesla just did. We also take a look at a concept that I call Gone Till November relative to the semi, which I thought was kind of interesting regarding what's going on with Tesla semi-truck and its location currently. Wanted to also make a note that we'd appreciate if you subscribe. We will start having programming exclusively for subscribers and Patreon supporters. And we do want to thank our both subscribers and Patreon supporters as well. Josh, thanks for the comment on the audio volume. We're working on improving execution, so we do have the mic that you can see popping in and out of screen here a bit, and trying to really work on the quality of execution here. With your support again on Patreon and as subscribers. So the first thing I was wanting to cover, even though it's out of order, is hooray! Tesla raised $2.7 billion on Friday of this past week. And we're excited to learn this because there's a big problem in terms of them running out of cash. And the fundraise went well. It was partially debt, partially cash. And I think the new money will help. I'm hoping it's not the case, but Tesla's losing about $700 million a quarter based on the last numbers we saw in its current iteration. And at that loss rate, 2.7 billion could give them, basically a year's worth of runway before there's a catastrophe to be dealt with, maybe another capital raise, or hopefully they get the numbers rolling so the size of the losses won't be that huge. Another important thing that happened was the market was actually very kind in that the stock didn't tank. So as you know, there's some dilution that occurs where there are more shares being issued. So every share that's already out there is worth a little bit less. And that's part of the equation on kind of what's going on. So we're excited to report that Tesla made it through a fundraise. It didn't destroy the company, and that that whole circumstance means that everyone can calm down in terms of whether or not they will go bankrupt, and that includes me. Hopefully the losses don't get larger and we can actually see some profits and this all works out. The other things that occurred I thought that were noteworthy in the last week is that Tesla has now started offering a $399 lease. And I think that's very cool because all of a sudden there are a whole bunch of buyers that can afford to purchase. I have to admit, I'm a little bit confused about the $399 lease because if you combine, the impression I'm getting is that based on what Tesla has been focused on producing, which is the higher priced vehicles, it's kind of interesting to note that if you have a high priced vehicle, you can get your number back down in terms of cost to own the vehicle. But there is that sort of bite on the back end where you can't buy the car that you've been using. So I'm pleased with the raise. I'm still concerned though because how do you stem these losses? And part of it might be paying down some of the debt. There's some of the $10 billion in debt. So we'll see how this all works out. It's May the 6th today, so officially the China factory has been completed in terms of the structure, but it has no equipment inside. So we're looking forward to update photos over the next couple of months as we start loading things. What I keep thinking about is the stamping plant. Tesla actually produces its own body panels for the cars, and that's some heavy piece of equipment that's got to sit on some not very well cured concrete in that plant. So we're looking forward to that coming online, and then the implications of that in terms of production capacity in China expanding. The next thing, so at any rate, relatively good news. We raised some cash, which is great. The next question is, can we also reduce the amount of losses being incurred so there won't be a need for a cash raise soon and money can be devoted to other things? The next aspect of our show really focuses on the triple threat of what's going on with electric semis when it comes to Daimler versus Nikola versus Tesla. And as we all know, Nikola just delivered its first fully electric sample vehicle. So what's interesting about this triple combo, and by the way, I can see the comments you guys are making, trying to note them as I see them so we can include them at the end of the show and after we finish the topics that we've chosen to cover today. So one of our viewers asked a question: if Tesla just has a couple of mules that have been driving around extensively, is it a big deal that Nikola you can call a fraud because they don't have anything at all on the road for customers to visit with or use, whereas Tesla does have vehicles, but they still haven't produced volume quantities that people can purchase. So one therefore could argue that Tesla's a fraud as well. That is a logical conclusion, that was made. I would say that, the fact of the matter is that, yes, Tesla is not delivering the vehicles in quantity which one might have expected by now, especially because they said they'd be doing 2019 deliveries and that the delivery process has switched over to now them saying 2020 is when they're going to deliver the semi. My argument against the fraud assessment for Tesla is, number one, the truck exists and is moving around and going to customers. Two, they actually are doing real customer deliveries. So even though the weight of 4 cars on the back of the truck is not a full 43,000 pound load that you would have on a regular semi, that is still, the fact of the matter is they're delivering something. And at this point, we haven't seen really the Daimler truck or the Nikola truck on the road and doing real deliveries on a semi-scale vehicle. So I bring all this up to suggest that you could argue that Tesla is actually a fraud based on this, but the fact that they're actually doing deliveries and you can touch and feel the truck and then to visit customers, in my mind, puts them well beyond the fraud assessment that I'm placing on the folks at Nikola, and not really somewhat at Mercedes-Benz. Now, the other thing that I wanted to cover today in terms of the reason I chose the competition between the 3 truck manufacturers is there's an open question that exists when it comes to competitors to Tesla and BYD, which includes Daimler. I wanted to note that there's this weird problem that's sort of popped up, which is batteries. So yes, Daimler, for example, wants to produce a lot of cars and trucks. The problem they're having is there's a shortage of batteries. As we've talked about, there's a Korean manufacturer that's handling most of the batteries currently, and that manufacturer is experiencing so many orders that VW and others have had to slow down the rollout of their vehicles because they can't actually get the batteries necessary to make their products, if you will, reality. So I bring this up to you because one of the assessments I have of Nikola and its ability to be successful is that Daimler, for example, has purchased half of SK in order to be able to produce its own batteries. Not only has it purchased half of SK, but it also already has contracts with several manufacturers to produce batteries. So I just wanted to note that in general, where we're at right now is that while Tesla hasn't produced any trucks yet, they're the largest manufacturer, I guess, next to BYD of electric vehicles, and they're fast getting to the position where they're at economies of scale of their batteries that allows them to get down to lower cost than competitors prior to us moving to the next iteration, with graphene and all the other things. So it just means I believe that Tesla is in a great position, and it further causes me to question the viability of what Nikola is talking about, because everyone and their brother has been able to produce a prototype model that they can roll out and say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and we have X, Y, and Z specs. But the problem that's happening is that you can have a terrific on paper document about what your truck is or semi is going to do, but there is the problem of the fact that you've got to be able to, one, produce it. Nikola doesn't have a production facility ready. They bought the land and they're starting to build that out. Number two, you also have to have batteries for that thing. And with all the world's greatest manufacturers competing for batteries from the same entity right now in Korea, and then a few small entities in China and Korea, and unable to get batteries from Panasonic as Tesla is doing, you're now in an interesting position where, just like Bob Lutz said, there can be announcements all day about new vehicles that can come out, but if they don't have any batteries, they may have shells sitting there, and that shortage of batteries is at least another year, but maybe another 2 or 3 years out before competitors can get scale level batteries to compete with Tesla. So we're hopeful that Tesla cleans up some of its operational issues in time, such that it can deliver quality vehicles to customers and really lock in a large base of customers before competitors arrive at scale with quality products and a quality solution in terms of both batteries and all the other elements of what it takes to produce. So the bottom line is this: yes, there's competition from Daimler and Nikola when it comes to Tesla Semi. No, Tesla hasn't put large numbers of them on the road yet. They've listed, I guess early 2020 is when they'll be doing that. But I just wanted to generally note that right now, Nikola has done great marketing, done great process of putting out working documents for the nature of what they're going to do. The only problem is that nobody's seeing any real solutions from them, and there are a number of mountains they have to climb. And the one that we're sort of highlighting today is the fact that how are they going to lock up battery capacity when they're competing with the biggest companies in the world for that capacity? And entities like Daimler have the cash to simply go buy half a company that'll be producing their batteries and therefore control their future supplies. And so it's not just about raising $1 billion as they've done to try to get a truck facility built and ready. It's what does the rest of the supply chain look like, and can they actually pull it off? And our argument for the next year or two is nope, because there's just not a lot of battery capacity beyond what's been made available to triage basis out there thus far. And that's not even considering the fact that we may be switching by then to graphene or other types that are going on. Next thing I wanted to sort of review is generally where we're at. I'm kind of confused right now with Tesla's strategy. There's some confusion, number one, because while Tesla's entered Europe, which is great, they also entered Europe at the highest price point for the Model 3. And in the United States, we found that the mid-price Model 3, about $50K, has the highest demand. And so as we drop into that $40,000 to $50,000, those vehicles going to Europe are the ones that we believe are going to grow sales dramatically and allow the company to do very well. The big question mark, though, is that Tesla's sort of been playing around with the cheapest vehicle, making it difficult to get a hold of them, we believe, because when you tack on the debt per car that Tesla has to do, it's actually, losing money on that vehicle. And so our understanding is that many of the sales circumstances with that vehicle, Tesla's been really trying to upsell people into spending more money and therefore having a better chance of breaking even. So if you're one of those customers in that position of trying to purchase that vehicle, hang in there until they can figure it out and make money on it, because we want to see the company do well and not lose money on each car and therefore jeopardize their ability to move forward. One of our viewers from Europe explained that, when tax in Europe doubles the price of a vehicle, the fact that you're now buying a $40,000 or $50,000 vehicle versus a $70,000 to $80,000 vehicle is significant. It's also significant that they've now started leasing. So, long-winded statement to say, all those changes Tesla's doing currently to address stuff that I think should have been dealt with earlier is significant, and I think it'll affect sales. The real question mark, though, is there enough margin in those Model 3s heading to Europe and other places to actually make it cost effective for the company to produce those vehicles at scale and not lose money in every one, and therefore jeopardize the future of the company. The other thing that is a question mark that's out there, it's an amazing thing to watch some of the numbers on trucks. And we're sort of zigzagging a little bit here, but Daimler highlighted that their semi-truck that's being delivered in Los Angeles, supposedly in the next month or two, the truck is coming in at $450,000, and that means the battery packs are in that $300,000 to $325,000 range. And so when you see prices that high, not many entities can afford to party or to enter the marketplace at that level. So it'll be interesting to see how Tesla delivers a cost-effective solution, i.e. maybe a $200,000, $250,000 truck, which is double what regular diesels cost, but that's a doable range of price, whereas the $400,000 to $500,000 range is prototype level stuff where it's not really cost justifiable for a large number of customers. And so we'll see how that happens. I'm fascinated by the leases. That was a question raised by Josh just now. My understanding is the companies actually have a lot of choice on leases. In particular, those leases can be bundled and then sold into the marketplace, so the payment stream actually goes elsewhere. So I think the leasing is great because it lowers the entry point, and therefore more people will be willing to purchase and move into the car. I think it's not a cash drain because they get it back, pretty quickly. Excellent question on what power packs are powering the Semi. So we are nearing the end of our show right now based on battery life issues, it looks like. Any rate, I wanted to take time to thank you all for taking time to join us today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we could use your help on Patreon. We look forward to coming back with the next show, also on the Semi, regarding Gone Till November. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Remember your 20 leg lifts and don't go to bed within 2 hours of eating. Tschüss, macht's gut, au revoir, lehitraot, choda hafez, and sorry about that. We kind of went down in our battery zone, and that affected our ability to perform a little bit. I could see all the folks that have said hello. Thanks, Gareth, our friends from Chile, Roger, for your comments, etc. I would appreciate it if you guys would take time out to note at the end of the show or in our comments, things that you recognized or questions that you might have had, because those not on our live show will be able to make comments in the process. I think we're going to end right now because it's been a little bit jumbled in our process today, and look forward to coming back with our next show, in which we're actually looking at the semi again in a concept called Gone Till November. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us, and bye for now.